going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 267. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, sitting here on a Sunday. Beautiful. Austin, Texas. A little cold front came through. We got some rain. How you feeling, my friend?
I am doing well, my friend. Obviously super excited for this playoff matchup that's coming up. I have a big week ahead of me next week with my friends coming down from New York. Going to do a sweet bike ride. Going to go
Coming
see
to game 2.
My favorite band twice. Not once, but twice.
Yeah, double
and
murder
then,
by death next week.
Yep, we're going to get those guys to game 2 there at home. So I'm really, really excited about all of that. Obviously excited to get into this preview and talk about LAFC and what we're going to do, how we're going to beat them.
Yeah, nice little week off for the North End here. Took it along with the team. Rejuvenated, ready for not the playoff push, the playoffs. Return to Austin, Texas. We'll preview that match, talk a couple pieces of Austin FC news, check in on the best keeper in the world before we get into the rest of episode 267. Want to remind you all, as we always do, that whether you're listening to us on the audio version or watching on the YouTube, you can actually support the show financially by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. So if you're on the YouTube, hit pause, run over to your podcast app, download the episode, support the show financially. You can toggle on auto downloads on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you. That'll support the show going forward, and you don't have to think about it again. You can go the extra mile, rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast. You can do the same thing on the YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button. That also helps us grow the podcast. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And, of course, you're on episode 267. Hit the thumbs up, like the video. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords by atoning for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Couple pieces of news here. We will start with one Bradley Scott Stuver. Brad announced as a finalist once again in the league's year-end awards. Stuver nominated for the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award. This is the 3rd season that Brad has been a finalist for this award. Give this man the fucking trophy already. Like, this is long overdue. Of course, Brad was also nominated for ESPY Awards in 2022 and 2023 for his community-based advocacy and fundraising. So the voting on these, right, we had the save of the year. That voting was this past week. The winner will be announced tomorrow on Monday, the 27th. But these year-end awards, these will be voted on by coaching staffs, first team rostered players around the league, and some select media members. And each of those 3 groups will account for an equal third of the vote for these awards. So going up against Stuver here in the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award is Diego Luna. You know, we like the Moon Man here,
Indeed.
Except for twice a year. And then Ryan Hollingshead. And look, I don't care. This is an LAFC guy for the uninitiated. This week, or this next 2.5 weeks, whatever it is here in the first round, Ryan Hollingshead could have saved 83 children from drowning out of an underwater cave. I don't care.
Whoa.
I don't care. This is Stuver's award. Give it to the man. And look, we're going to be taking names. Whoever doesn't vote for Bradley Scott here. Come on, media. Come on, players, coaches.
Damn. Yeah, that's quite the intro there.
Look, recognize our guy.
Of course. And he obviously doesn't do the stuff that he does to be awarded for it or recognized like this or anything like that. And obviously he will continue doing these awesome things in our community. What a wonderful person. As I always say about the man, he will get my vote. Of course, he already got my vote for Save of the Year. Mm-hmm. So hoping he's able to bring it home. Hoping, but still. Congrats to Stuver, man. This is just, it's incredible what he does in the community here in Austin.
So I wanted to I don't think you have looked at the list of nominees for these year-end awards here, So just to read them off, if you have any takes, let them fly. If not, we can keep rolling. 5 nominees for the MVP award, which, if we're coming correct, that is the Landon Donovan MLS MVP award here in Major League Soccer. Denny Buonga, Anders Dreyer, Evander, Lionel Messi, and Sam Surridge are the 5 nominees there. To me, Surridge is the odd one out. He does not measure up. To me, he's a great goal scorer, right?
Yep.
And I think second in the Golden Boot race to Messi. I think this is maybe should even be unanimous Messi here this year. Like last year, I think there was a little bit more of a debate. The way they ended this season and Messi dominating the Golden Boot race by the end, I think it's his award here. And again, I don't know how you can make an argument otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to throw other people into this, competition here. But I mean, 47 goal contributions in 29 matches. Like, what are we talking about here? This guy is obviously the best player in the league still. Son being introduced, makes that a bit of a debate. But I pulled up his FOT mob thing here. Touches 100%, chances created 100%, shot attempts 100%, goals 98%. So like,
whoa,
it's just yeah, right. It's all just pink. It looks incredible. I don't see how you could possibly give it to anyone else. Obviously, I don't think Miami had the season that they wanted to have. Obviously, playing into the playoffs here and everything, they have their eyes set on the cup. But I don't think things went the way that they wanted them to this season, and that might be a knock on him given the talent on that roster overall. But when you look at this from an individual standpoint, the guy is just otherworldly.
So I'm going to skip out of order here in the list that the league released because I wanted to make a point, as silly as this may come off to our listeners. The newcomer of the year, all of the other awards have just 3 nominees. MVP has 5. Newcomer of the year, the 3 nominees are Anders Dreyer, Philip Zinkernagel from Chicago Fire, and Heung-min Son from LAFC, who again played 10 games, I think, here. So if Son can be nominated for newcomer of the year, if we are literally, and again, there's different interpretations of what the MVP award means to different fans or media members or what have you. I think Son should be nominated for MVP because LAFC was not the team that they are now. Nobody had the fear from LAFC that we do now. And I think he's you're talking about most valuable. He is the one who has taken LAFC to the heights where people are saying some people at least are saying that this is the team to beat. So newcomer, I think all 3 of those guys are very deserving. I mean, Dreyer for a while there was, and again, he's nominated for MVP as well, but he had a great season. He probably deserves it. But I just wanted to get that Son take in there. I think he might deserve a shout for just an MVP nomination, obviously not to win the award.
Yeah, if he's in consideration for this award, then I don't see why he wouldn't qualify for MVP. Obviously, I don't think he would win it.
Right.
But it's Dreyer for me here for sure. San Diego holding on to that 1 seed, being able to move into the playoffs with that 1st seed locked up and everything. His impact, I believe he leads the league in assists, correct?
I believe you're correct. Yeah. I mean, he's been incredible for them.
Yeah.
He's the main reason why they are where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a talented roster around him as well, but he has been great from the start of this season all the way through. Yeah, 17 assists, 19 goals this season. What a season for him. So, yeah, he's got my vote there.
Siggy Schmid, Coach of the Year Award, 3 nominees. Bradley Carnell, the Supporter Shield winning Philadelphia Union. Jesper Sorensen from the Vancouver Whitecaps. And Mikey Varas from the Western Conference winning San Diego FC. I think this is maybe the most heated debate of these awards. I think I would give it to Carnell because not only winning the East, not only winning the Shield before decision day, right, which is kind of the double stamp on your dominance in a regular season. This man was canned by St. Louis last year, and you look where St. Louis is now and where he went. And when we go back and look at our preseason predictions, which are there's always some in there that are just so bad.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, dude, we had them 11th, 12th, 13th, something like that in the East. And they were the best team, most consistent team all season. So I would give the nod to Carnell there, but I think Sorensen, what he did in Vancouver, and obviously Varas with the expansion team, but I would go Carnell.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, this might be the closest one, like you mentioned here, and I guess we're not going to have too much controversy because it's Carnell for me as well. But to talk about Sorensen and the injuries that Vancouver dealt with early in this season, obviously you get Muller during the transfer window, and that boosts your floor a lot. But it's Carnell for me, man. What a job he did. And to your point, nobody was talking about Philly before this season started to be a relevant team. They were going to be maybe pushing for a wild card spot, but to win the Shield, man, super, super impressive job. Good job, St. Louis. Smart.
Yeah, and getting rid of McGlynn right before the season, right? Like there was really no sign to the casuals like us, I guess. We know who's going to win the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award, so we'll skip ahead to the MLS Comeback Player of the Year. Lawrence and Nolly, for the Orange team over there in Southeast Texas. Nick Hagglund for Cincinnati and Richie Larea for Toronto. I think I lean Hagglund here. If Anali had a slightly better season in terms of his counting stats, right? Because, like if you listen to the North End here, episode in and episode out, you know that we have some healthy respect for the raw talent of Lawrence Anali. But I think Hagglund would be the pick here for me, given where Cincy was in the table. The way they overperformed their underlying numbers all season, I think I give the slight lean there to Hagglund.
I'm right there with you as well, given what the team did all season long. Cincy, obviously, you're bringing in Evander, you get Denke there, some real talent. But with this award, none of these guys were super, super impactful. But obviously, bouncing back from an injury, having the season that Cincinnati had, goes to Hagglund as well for me.
Yeah, and 2026, the name on that trophy will be Brandon Vasquez, Defender of the Year here, Tristan Blackman for Vancouver, and then a pair of Philly Union defenders, Jakob Glesnes and Kai Wagner. Blackman been hurt down the stretch of the season. I think he's expected to return at some point in the postseason. But I would give it to one of the two Philly guys. And for me, it's Wagner, not only for his elite level of defense, but dude, the way he sets the platter, he's a two-way player. And so to me, it's almost like defensive MVP kind of for me here. So I would go Wagner.
I go Wagner as well. 2 goals, 9 assists on the season. Obviously, that's super impactful on the offensive side of the ball. You look at the Philly Union, man, winning the Shield, like we mentioned. Also, only 35 goals conceded, all season long, which topped Vancouver, which I wasn't aware of until I looked at the table here. So super impressive. Don't think he's a great person, but do think he wins the award here.
Yeah. Well, goalkeeper of the year, unfortunately, no Bradley Scott Stuver there. So, we don't have to, get into our gripes. You know how we feel. But the 3 that did get nominated, Matt Freese from NYCFC, Dane St. Clair from Minnesota United, and Yohei Takaoka from Vancouver Whitecaps. What do you think there? I mean, all 3 of those guys that's kind of the list of keepers that we say, like when you're like, Stuver's one of the best keepers in the league. Like these are the guys you think of first.
I think it's probably St. Clair. For me, and that's just kind of from the hip. I haven't looked too deep into the advanced stats for these guys, but St. Clair was super impactful for that Minnesota team this season, and he's a very high quality keeper. Obviously, my vote would have gone to Brad if he was nominated for this, and I think it's a shame he's not. I agree. Yeah, I really do. And there some bias here? 100%, of course. I also watch him 34 plus times a season, so I have that perspective for sure, but to deal with what he has dealt with over the course of 5 seasons now, we're talking about with the amount of shots, the volume he has had to go up against, and like some of the saves he made this year. I think we're going to get into save of the year, the nominees there, but like, good God, that a couple of the saves that he had this season were just absolutely incredible. Austin would not be sitting where they're at right now if Bradley Scott Stuver was not on this team, and none of those teams would if they had keepers that were not of the same caliber that are playing for them. But it's St. Clair for me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. It's kind of between St. Clair and Takaoka, and like maybe you and I are biased because we've seen St. Clair the most of these 3 guys. I know Freese had a great year, right? And he was rewarded by Pochettino, multiple call-ups and starts for the U.S. national team this season, but like St. Clair is also the starter for Canada. So like that doesn't really factor in for me here in what they did in the league. I think maybe just to break with you, I'll go Takaoka, right? Finish second in the table above St. Clair, and Takaoka also doing it without his 2 starting center backs in Blackman and Veselinovic. So the final one here of these year-end awards is Young Player of the Year, Alex Freeman, Diego Luna, Obed Vargas. And while my vote goes to Diego Luna, all 3 of these guys are very deserving, and I also think that there is a biased nomination that was not made there in Owen Wolff.
Yeah, what are the qualifications here to get nominated for this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I thought it was under 22, but Diego is older than that. Maybe it was you're under 22 when the season starts, something like that. I would have to think that Owen was next up or second to next in terms of like others receiving voting nominations here. I don't know how that process goes. And again, like I know Alex Freeman is great. He's an awesome young prospect and he had a hell of a year. I think Owen Wolff belongs on this list over Alex Freeman because where's Orlando? Fucking out, man. They got roasted in the wild card game by Chicago. So I don't know, man. Again, these nominations were done before then. But the 9 seed, Alex Freeman, is going to get this over the 6 seed Owen Wolff, who set all kinds of career records, joined the likes of Fagundes and Driussi at this club. Again, I know it's a league-wide thing, but it's where I would put Owen in over Freeman for now.
And also, like obviously I respect and understand the talent of Freeman and Luna as well and everything, but like, I guess there has to be some sort of media bias here with this, just because the fact that we're Austin, we're a small market team, but like, again, if we're talking about impact, Austin would not be even relatively close to where they're sitting at without the production of Owen Wolff this season. And the steps that he made this year to move into a new class of player across the league, it was huge. And like for him not to be nominated is bullshit in my opinion. And again, biased for sure. But like, if you want to go and dig into the numbers as somebody who doesn't think Owen Wolff belongs in this conversation at least, then feel free, because they're going to reveal just how impactful Owen was all season long for this team. And like you said, setting records for our club. Obviously the standard is not through the roof to achieve something like that, but it still means something. And we're looking at 15 goal contributions this season, or 16 with the secondary assists. So, and again, I think he's playing out of position. We're playing that left wing. You know what I mean? Like and like if you look at where he's played all season long, he's been in the midfield. He's been playing left wing. We've seen him shift back onto to wing back in prior seasons, and everything that we've asked this kid to do, he has passed with flying colors. So that's really a shame.
And I think go ahead. Sorry.
And like when we talked about the under 22 list that came out, and like Owen top 4, right? He was 4th.
Yeah, he was 4th. Yeah.
How is he not considered there? Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think as we're talking about it too, like I am putting regular season results from the team kind of into my thoughts. It is a factor here for these individual awards. And maybe it's not fair that I'm thinking like the Vargas performance in the Leagues Cup final stuck out to me among the many good performances he had this year. And like to frustrate some of the greatest players that the game has ever seen, despite their age, like to do that was really impressive. Not a league game there. So I think close between Luna and Vargas, but again, Owen Wolff would be our vote. So anything else for you on these award nominations? I just thought that was, we're getting into our end of the season stuff. And that, typically we're wrapping up Austin's season at this point, but we got games to go here back in the playoffs. So looking at the league-wide nominations there. And hey, man, give Brad the award. That was the point of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at the table again, and Orlando fell apart at the end of this season, really just fell apart. And, we have our opinion on the East versus the West. I think the East is a much more top-heavy conference, but top to bottom, I do believe the Western Conference is a bit better. And, maybe Austin obviously sitting on less points than Orlando there, and Seattle as well. So, tough. But I think it's a shame that Owen got snubbed there, but good luck to Brad. I hope he comes out on top with his nomination.
Yeah, and just like, we're going to have an MVP winner next year. BV's going to be the comeback player.
There we go.
Owen's still going to be young enough to win that award next year. So the year of Austin FC 2026. Just wait.
There we go. Not setting the bar too high.
Look, moving on real quick. Just wanted to talk about this because this came out, I want to say on Friday from Sportico. A new article just giving us just the slightest bit more of information and a new valuation for the club, which again, some people care about more than others, but new minority ownership here. Again, just a follow up on the news from a few months back with the new minority investors. This article from Sportico says that the Borgen family which manages First Tracks Sports Ventures. They're the subjects of the story here. This is kind of the new minority owner that they're highlighting here. The Borgen family are also, I believe, the main investors in the NWSL expansion franchise, Denver Summit. So getting their tentacles across the soccer landscape here in the States. You get this new valuation for the club of $912 million. So we are not far off from a $1 billion valuation here for Austin FC. I found it a little bit interesting reading this article that the club has declined to comment on the terms of the ownership stake transaction from earlier this season, because that we don't know who sold the equity, how much was purchased, anything like that. Again, not super important to the casual fan, but for the sickos, we pay attention to stuff like that. And especially because it has been confirmed that all 7 of Austin FC's prior backers remain involved in ownership in some capacity, with Anthony Precourt still the majority owner. So again, maybe we get some more information about that going forward. But that's what we got now. New valuation, Borgen family here as minority investors. But still waiting on, who sold how much of their equity, what was purchased, this and that. So just again, some scraping for news here in late October.
That is a surprising figure to me.
That's a lot, man.
That seems really high. I just pulled up some shit real quick there, and coming into the 2021 season, expansion fee of $150 million, and now you're valued at $912 million.
Well, so I think, right, you mentioned the 2021 or the expansion fee in 2021, right? With the expansion teams that have come in since, I think that boosts every club up a certain amount, right? So we've had, I think it was Charlotte came in right after us, then St. Louis, then nobody 2024, then San Diego this year. So not only is the league growing and you get because I think the singular ownership, right, of the league, the single entity ownership structure that we have also bolsters it a little bit. When you're talking about this big money stuff, the valuations of the club. But again, when you look at these lists league wide, you would rather your club be up near the top than in the bottom third of course. This. So, and Austin, again, I think since we've been paying attention to these lists, Austin has been in the top 10 pretty consistently. And what's shocking isn't necessarily the valuation of the club itself, at least for me. It's where the club valuations line up globally because of the pro rel and the money that backs MLS right at this point of the league's growth. So again, I think that's enough on this. You want to go ahead and get into some playoff talk here?
Let's do it, baby. I'm excited.
All right. So and speaking of playoff talk, playoff party seemed like a success out at Mohawk on Wednesday. Looked like a good group of players out there too. Stuver, Owen, Johnny, right? There's some of the mainstays there, right? Danny. Mirtu was out there too. Nico out there with his guys. And speaking of playoff parties, dude, Los Verdes pulling out all the stops. Like we had the great decision day party, La Murga, everything at Hop Squad, right? For game 1 on Wednesday, right? It is a 9:30 scheduled kickoff. Actual kickoff is going to be 9:42 p.m. Central Time. And because this is on a weeknight, such a late kickoff, Los Verdes hosting 2 watch parties, 1 north, 1 south. So you're up there in Q2's neck of the woods. We're going back to the motherland, Hop Squad Brewing on Wednesday night. Of course, Hop Squad, all ages, dog-friendly, free parking. Both large indoor screens going to be showing the game. Kramer's Cocktail Bar will be open until 10 p.m., so you get those cocktails in there for the first half. Yucatan Tacos and More, that food truck open until halftime there at Hop Squad. And once again, $5 beers at Hop Squad during the watch party. So kickoff right set for 9:30 on the schedule. So watch party start time at 8:30. And same start times if you're down south. Chalmers Austin will be hosting the Los Verdes South watch party here for game 1 of the first round. Chalmers Austin, 1700 East Cesar Chavez Street here in Austin. Chalmers Austin, also all ages, on-site and street parking available there by Chalmers on Cesar Chavez. Large screen, lots of seating out back there at Chalmers. And Discada and Rolling Smoke Barbecue, both food trucks, will be open until 9 p.m. So you want to get your food trucks there at Chalmers. You get there when the watch party starts at 8:30, get your food, then you're ready for kickoff. I mean, 2 watch parties is that's great work.
Yeah, that is impressive. That, and again, they do such a wonderful job with these, and like to have 2, it's playoff soccer, man. Let's do it. I love it. Love to see it.
Speaking of playoffs, let's talk LAFC for the 4th time this season now, and the 2nd time in about 3 weeks here. And I actually want to start here, with the story that broke yesterday with MLS posting a statement. And this MLS statement reads, very short, Major League Soccer has placed LAFC midfielder Yaya Boa and Columbus Crew midfielder Derek Jones on administrative leave pending league review of potential violations of league rules. Both players will be prohibited from participating in team activities and competition during the respective reviews. And now, Yaya Boa is not a key piece for LAFC this year, was not only a key piece, but I believe the man who scored the goal against LAFC to win a final 2 years back.
Oh, shit.
Yaya Boa, I think less than 700 minutes on the year, just 1 goal. Did enter the match against Austin 2 weeks ago at the Q. This sure reads like, and maybe it's just recency bias from the news that took place this week in our neck of the woods, right, with the NBA and some of the issues there going on with the gambling and the poker and all that. We almost did a little nickname exercise here today. We need to see who Pookie is. But man, this is, we could have a longer discussion about our thoughts, I think, on legalized gambling around sports and this and that. But this sure, to bring it back to Austin FC, it sure seems like LAFC will be without Yaya Boa throughout certainly this round, maybe even the entire playoffs. And again, they are still a very deep team. This shouldn't hurt them too much. But we'll take it where we can get it. And again, I thought it was something that was certainly applicable here with that news dropping yesterday, considering what we heard in the sports world from the FBI this week, and that we are playing LAFC here. This sounds to me, because Yaya Boa was teammates with Derek Jones, this sounds to me like it maybe was something from when Yeboah was in Columbus.
Interesting. And like you said, we could have a much deeper discussion about the recent news coming from the NBA and now this and everything. But like, for me, man, it's disgusting. It really is. Like, I think Terry Rozier is a piece of shit. Like, I really do. Like, you're a horrible person. You have ruined the integrity. Obviously I'm going on a tangent here with NBA and everything, but like, it's still applicable. If you're throwing games, man, if you're actively hurting your team to make sure your homies can score a, $5,000 bet, like, you're a terrible person. Like, I can't get past that. So like, if this is what comes down for Yeboah and like it is a gambling thing, and I know that there's a huge element and aspect that is thrust to the public with all the things that you can gamble on now, all the apps. Obviously, you and I very, very much involved in gambling on professional sports, have been for a long time. But like, man, it's a real letdown to see guys at the top of their profession being involved in this type of stuff. And, if he did this stuff in Columbus, man, then fuck you, dude. I have no sympathy.
Well, and again, we should be clear. There is no concrete information out there about what this is about. It could be a lot of things, but it sure feels like this is what it is. And I think the only things, again, you and I could sit here and talk about this for a while, I think. But I would just clarify, there's also no evidence or accusations, really, of games being thrown. It's the information about that helps player props where Terry Rozier, right, I'm going to sit out after this many minutes. That's not affecting the outcome of the game if you're just taking yourself out. I fully agree with you. Being a piece of shit, you're going to have to do the consequences that come from that, right? Yeah. And also, I
mean, if you're the Charlotte Hornets and you're Terry Rozier and you go out of the game, that is impacting the game because he was one of their best players.
I guess. I get it.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Right. Well, and I think the bigger point that I wanted to make is that, and maybe this is incorrect, and maybe this is certainly in the minority in terms of opinions here, but I think this is not only a signal, not only a good thing, but a signal that shit is working in terms of regulating gambling. Because if gambling is illegal, guess what? This shit has been going on for decades.
Oh yeah.
And if it is not legal, we do not know about this.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
Because look, man, again, sports gambling is not legal in Texas. Just betting right on a money line, this or that. But guess what? People have been gambling in Texas for 100 years. So again, we can get back on track here, but just something to keep an eye on, that if this story is coming to MLS, just something to keep an eye on if you're a fan of the league as well.
And then to bring it back to LAFC real quick, right? And everything that's surrounding this. Is it super impactful that they're losing Yeboah here? No. He has not played a ton. He is not one of their better players.
Right.
Is he a depth piece? Yes. We saw him come in at some points in time. If you have an injury, he could have been one of the guys you look to down the bench to say, yes, we're going to get you in the game. He possesses a very real speed element. But also on top of that, this is a bit of a distraction for the locker room. And that is an impact. So it's not huge, but it's still something.
So between when we last saw LAFC and game 1 here, they did draw against Colorado Rapids on decision day. And I did tune in to our friends over there at Happy Foot Sad Foot to their post-game podcast that they do, little live stream. And they all kind of agreed that even getting a draw in that match was a little bit lucky. And so that 2-2 draw, even if they won, with the way the other results fell, they were pretty much, I think they were locked into the 3 given how San Diego, Vancouver, and Minnesota ended up. But looking at what they did, man, their substitution patterns, they may have been scoreboard watching on the bench, because 1-1, they sub out Son, Tillman, Chouanier, and then they sub out Hollingshead and Bouanga down 2-1. So again, it didn't seem like I didn't watch the full game. I did watch the highlights there and look at the game charts and all of that. It sure seemed like they were not pushing too hard in that one, and they do end up getting the equalizer in the 90th minute from Morin. But yeah, it seemed like they kind of coasted there, even though they played their guys. Not to the extent that we did, because they did come into the game having the chance to move up or down. But I don't think there's much. I tried to go in there and let's have some takeaways, and I couldn't really find much, dude. Just I don't think we should take too much away from our victory over them, from either victory.
Correct.
Over them, right? Because Austin sweeping the regular season series this year has been a talking point over the last week. And we mentioned it after Brian brought it up to us last Saturday night, right? And even if you put less stock into that we think you should, I think it's a pretty crazy stat that Austin FC has not lost to LAFC in MLS play since October 2023.
Wow.
So it's not just Austin has been good against an LAFC team this year twice that was different and pulled off the 2-1 victories, but they did the same thing last year too, where they were able to play this team to a draw and probably should have had a win.
Yeah.
Absent that Kai Kamara header. So, right, very different team now on both sides of the ball here for Austin and for LAFC. But also, dude, looking at Nico, going back to his time in Dallas, Nico has a winning record against Steve Cherundolo. So, in a series now where we all know you can advance without scoring a goal, just winning in PKs. And for those who don't know, and you're listening in now, and I think I was listening to Hernan make the point that some fans may have tuned out because we haven't been in the playoffs. So there's probably a certain subset of fans that don't know we are playing best of 3 until this past week, right? Yeah. So best of 3 series here. You only play 90 minutes if you're tied after regulation. No extra time. You go straight to a penalty shootout. And if you win the penalty shootout, boom, you're up 1-0 in the series. Best 2 out of 3. So, do I think Austin is not favored? Do I think Austin is going to advance? I don't, man. If you're asking me to put money down, put something of substance down here.
Careful now.
Careful. Come on, get out of here, Cash. I'll see you in Valhalla. If I'm putting anything of consequence on this series, it's not on Austin. Yeah. But I also think on the other side of the extreme, which we have seen some fans saying, oh, this is like going to be hopeless. It may turn out that way when all is said and done, because we know about the talent. We know the firepower that LAFC possesses. We've seen what they've done to teams over the last 2 months. More often than not. But this is a team that has a coach that has proven the ability to not only compete against a Cherundolo coach team, the amount of talent that LAFC always has, but beat them with a fucking Dallas team, no less, and an Austin team now. And we know we have guys that can go out there and execute an Estevez game plan to muck things up and try to win 1-0 or try to win, or not win, but I mean, it might feel like a win to go out and get into PKs out there in game 1. And I really think that's what we should expect as fans to see, is something that looks ugly, that looks very defensive, and is trying to capitalize on the handful of chances that you're going to be able to create.
You're going to have to make it ugly. You are. If you're going to be able to compete in this series, and obviously this best of 3 shit is so ridiculous. Just an absolutely insane concept. Why don't we just do a home and away?
Yeah.
And you go on aggregate. It's
I would
nonsense.
love that.
It's, of course, it's nonsense. But, we're going to have to make this matchup ugly. And to your point, we have found ways to do that versus this team over the course of several seasons. I was not aware of Nico's winning record versus Cherundolo. That is an interesting aspect of it. And we've seen this team, Austin, that is, play a very specific style when we match up with LAFC. And you did it to perfection earlier in the season with an early Biru goal and then sitting back and absorbing. And I also am not taking too much away from the draw versus Colorado. I looked at Buanga and Son, who were playing internationally, both of them well over 100 minutes in their 2 matchups, flying back, trying to compete in this last game versus Colorado. But the priority was to keep those guys healthy.
Yeah.
It was not to go ahead and smash Colorado, which they easily could have done if they wanted to go full out to win that match. Yeah. It was staying healthy to be ready for a playoff run here. A team that has high expectations of a deep playoff run. You have the roster profile pulled up here for the YouTube viewers. And like we've talked about this team, like you said, 4 times now, as deep as it gets. Talent all across the board. But you're going to have to make this game ugly. Austin has found a way to do that. And I'd feel great going to PKs. You look at Hugo Lloris, guy that I have touted and talked about. Obviously, you know the resume for him if you're a fan of international soccer. He is not good at saving PKs. I don't think he's saved one since he's come to MLS.
Yeah. And he's bang average at shot stopping overall this season. And it's maybe slightly below now too.
He's definitely lost a bit of his shine, a bit of his caliber as he has aged. He's still a good keeper in this league, but getting to PKs should relatively, be a goal that you're setting for yourself against this LAFC team here. We know the 2 guys. It's Son and Buanga. You're going to have to find ways to contain them. We have in the past. Obviously, we have not seen this team with Son out there, but we found ways to corral dynamic wingers in the past here in Austin. And I think you're going to see a 5-back. I think we're going to get into that after we go through this roster profile sheet here and everything. But we found a way. And to your point, without the Kai Kamara header, you're looking at a great track record versus this team over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned the player personnel. I did find one stat on Denny Buanga that I think can maybe just kind of reassert to any of our listeners, like how dominant this guy is in transition and on the break, and how focused, even with Son in town now, how focused this offense is still around Denny Buanga. He averages 13.1 progressive passes received per 90, right? And progressive passes are those passes that progress the ball towards the opponent's goal by 10 yards or more. And those don't account for any passes that are made in the defensive 40% of the field. So 13.1 progressive passes received per 90 is by far the most of any player who has played at least 1,500 minutes this year. 1,500 minutes is about 17 full games, so half a season, right? And there's only one other player who's played at least 750 minutes this season, is Ali Ahmed from Vancouver, who's received more progressive passes per 90 than Buanga. So he is still, even with Son in the mix here, Buanga to me is still the focal point, even though
Yep.
I personally think Son is slightly more important to their overall success right now. But man, again, like you said, those are the two guys outside of Lloris. And then you get into some of the depth, right? And we could sit here and talk more about Morin, right? And how good he's looked coming over in the summer window on loan. We could talk about the fullbacks, right? In Hollingshead and Sergei Palencia and U22 Artem Smolyakov backing them up, right? Aaron Long is out with I think it was the Achilles for him, I think. And then you've just got our guy Nkosi Tafari.
Yep.
You've got Ryan Porteous coming over from the championship and the Premier League, right? Like the names just continue to go on. Like there's not going to be a hole out there for LAFC in their lineup in any of these games, barring multiple injuries between now and that point. So again, on paper, this is a series that leans toward LAFC, and I think it would be foolish to not acknowledge that.
Yep, of course. And like if you look back to the last matchup between these two clubs and the way that we approached that game, 0.47 expected goals for Austin, but you held them to 0.29. And again, in that matchup, was LAFC going full tilt, really trying to score and like make that game up and down and interesting the way they like to play? No, they were not. But again, the recipe is there. Austin is definitely not the favorite in this, but I also would say I think it's a bit closer than your casual MLS fan would think. I do think that these teams are a bit closer, and we have found a way to play these dynamic wings in this league. And it doesn't go just for LAFC, because when we're talking about the teams that we wanted to see in this first round, I talked about Minnesota, who in their own right have some dynamic players on the wing positions or in the midfield. Joaquin Pereira comes to mind right there. And you found ways to corral these teams that get up and down, get the ball, progressively passed to who I think obviously is the most dynamic player in transition in Denny Buanga in the entire league. And adding Son in there obviously gives them another element of a player that you just have to account for at all times. Yeah. And Son, I think, is a better distributor than Buanga is. Buanga, dynamic, incredible, right-footed shot, and a guy that can just get up and down the pitch at an incredible, incredible rate. And when he's bearing down on you, good Lord, it is scary. But, I like having Dessler over there. I've touted Dessler all season long. I think he's one of our best players. I think he's one of our most impactful players. He's going to have a great series for Austin to come out on top.
All the fullbacks, I think, and it's no matter if it's Dessler, Johnny G, Biru, Kolmanic. And I do think we see the 5-back again. And I know I've said this at times over the last month. I would like to see the 3 true center backs here once again. And I think for me, Julio is the odd man out. I would start Svatak, Djordjevic, Heinzike. And again, really try to muck this up and try to get to the finish line up 1-0 or again, taking it to a draw. And I think my biggest question is, do I want in that alignment? Do I want Guilherme Biru at left wing back, or do I want Jean Kolmanic? And I think my answer is the latter, dude. Like, because who's going to give you a better chance? Who's going to give you better service on any corners you're able to win, right? We think that's going to be just a handful. The couple of breakaways that we have, who's going to play a better ball in behind to Buka or to Uzuni, right? Crashing the net. And Biru, right? If we need some shithousery at the end to get it to PKs or to claw out a 1-goal win, I like fresh Biru coming off to fuck around in the last 15, 20 minutes there. So again, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch here. How do you feel about the back line? Would you, because I think again, like there's also a conversation. I think back 5 is what most of the locked in fans right now are preferring. But I think there's a conversation around 3 true center backs or sliding Biru in there at left center back and having either Johnny G or Kolmanic at the wing back.
If we go to the 3 center back alignment in the 5-back, Biru has shown that he struggles, with that alignment.
Yeah.
Still, I think I'm rocking with him over Kolmanic to start.
Okay.
And ideally, I think I don't know if it's ideal, but I do think you're going to see Biru play that 3rd center back and then have Johnny G that wing back. And I think
Gotcha.
because of Johnny's ability to track back, the speed that he possesses, Komanich, we know, is not a guy who's got the afterburners.
Sure, yeah.
Talked about trying to make the most of a limited amount of what we perceive to be a limited amount of chances. I do think Komanich obviously provides the best ability there, but it's not like Beru's chopped liver in that department. Still delivers fine balls. I think his ability to play, a tighter knit kind of game, a 1-2 game out of the back, is better than Komanich offers in those scenarios. And I think you're going to see a team in Austin that is absorbing a ton versus this LAFC side. And I like Komanich coming off the bench. To your point, like, is it great to have Beru come off the bench in that situation? You're down, you're trying to push forward, trying to score a goal. I think it might be better to get fresh Komanich in there to have in a late game scenario where you're trying to push one past LAFC here. So
if you're down, man, I want to see Komanich like 65th minute. If you're down, man, bring him in.
So like potential scenario, right? We start in the 5 back. You have Guilherme as the third center back and Johnny. You want to bring Komanich for Johnny there.
Probably, yeah.
Right. I think I'm fine with that. But I think Johnny has proven himself in this matchup to be an impact, to be a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. And as much as I've talked about his struggles all season long and the fact that I think that we need to get more out of him, but I think he's hit his ceiling in regard to, what he's able to do out there. He has shown in these types of matchups that he can hang with these wing backs, or these wing attacking players that you have to corral. You're going to see Buka tracking back to double. You're going to see Owen tracking back to double. That is part of how we have corralled this team with success as of late. So I do think Beru is going to be the third center back, and I think Johnny's going to start in that wing back position. And then I feel good about Komanich coming off the bench.
Well, and speaking, right, we're talking all about the defensive alignment here, and I think that is the most kind of worthy conversation to have about who starts. But we did get midweek availability from Coach, and he did give us an update on the injury report. Osman Bukhari trained with the team this week, expected to play. His absence against San Jose was kind of, as we thought, mostly precautionary. But not so good news on Diego Rubio. He's been deemed week to week by Coach Estevez. It sounds like he did his hamstring pretty good, man.
Dang. That sucks because
that's a loss, man.
That is the loss, and like that's a veteran in this league who has playoff experience, is not afraid of the moment. And we've seen the way the offense has looked when we shifted him into the starting lineup. There was a bump for sure when we saw him in the midfield trying to float around, and distribute to our guys. So that does suck. And with Buka, I think obviously we're being extra careful with him in that last matchup. And I didn't want to see him at all. So I was happy about it.
Yeah. Well, and I did want to, go back into bitch mode here for a little bit, dude, because I was whining about the schedule last Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. And I still just think, like, with LAFC owning their own stadium, if you double book with 21 pilots and 2 nights of 21 pilots, fuck, man.
42 pilots.
And like, dude, even I was, I'm listening to Happy Foot, Sad Foot's live stream. It was before the schedule came out. They mentioned like, hey, Dodgers are in the World Series. What's the schedule look like there? And they also then, one of their viewers brought up the concert and that being scheduled at BMO this weekend. And they said, surely this game is going to be on Friday then. Nope, Wednesday, which again, like you brought up last week, World Series down the street, game 5, which is not, if necessary now, game 5 is happening. So like, and I was talking to, I forget who responded to me about this morning, but I was bitching about it elsewhere. And somebody came back saying, that actually may be good for us. That maybe more LAFC fans are trying to go to the World Series or go watch that game than LAFC's game 1 against what they might perceive as lowly Austin. But I don't know, man, when you own your stadium and you do this, I think you forfeit home field advantage. I think this game should have been in Austin yesterday or today or fucking Friday, anytime. But like, you can't on round 1 weekend. Yeah. You cannot double book your stadium when you own the place.
It's ridiculous, man. And like, the fault lies on LAFC and like the ownership there, but also on MLS and everything like that. I don't know how much crossover, between MLB fans and MLS fans there are, but like there is definitely a bit of a Venn diagram where there are people in that, crossing circle. But
I mean, if there's
enough people.
If it was me, I'd be a fan of both, right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I'd be a fan of every Austin team. So,
yeah.
I guess a couple other notes here. I do think that Austin, right? I don't think we're going to see a departure from the recipe that got us the 2 wins earlier this season by giving LAFC the ball. And we know LAFC has played with a lot more possession this season than Cherundolo teams of the past, but I still think they are more uncomfortable trying to build up into the final third rather than hitting you in transition and on the counter. Rosendo, and go ahead.
Agree. But I also think, if you're Nico, you have to be ready for a little bit of a wrench here from LAFC, because to his credit, he has the track record versus Cherundolo to get this job done. But if I'm sitting there on the LAFC side and I'm in that coaching, the war room there, I think they're trying to find different ways to play us. I really do. And I don't think they're going to stray too far from what their bread and butter and everything is, because at the end of the day, they're the higher quality team, top to bottom, with their players. But you're going to have to give them the ball. And you did a good job with that. Again, I don't think there's too much you can take away from our last matchup with them. Yeah. But there is in the history that we have versus this club right now. So you're going to have to be defensive minded. You're going to have to get really good performances out of Gallagher and Dessler. Yeah. If Gally gets the start, I do think he will. And I do think you're going to have to see a lot of the double teams coming from our guys. And then you're going to have to make the most of your chances, because you're not going to get a ton of them because we're going to be so defensively focused.
Yeah. That means Osman Bukari tracking back, right, on that side with Dessler to help double Bouanga over there. Son can float to the left, right? He's more of a left-sided player than right, if I recall correctly. Our official, Rosendo Mendoza, here for Game 1E, which, I know that you and I, he's certainly not in our top 3 of officials. I don't think he's in our bottom 3 either, but better record with Mendoza here than I remembered this season. This will be the 5th Austin match he has officiated this year. 3 wins, 1 draw for Austin in the regular season with Mendoza. He officiated the win over LAFC 2 weeks ago. So, I do think that I like having the recency of a head official, just seeing these teams. I know there are big, we are also getting Azuni back, right? And Svatak and Julio weren't here, and both of those guys could certainly be out there. But then he also officiated our 0-0 draw against New England in July, the 2-1 win over Red Bulls in June, and the 1-0 win over the Galaxy in April. So there's your ref corner here for the Game 1 preview. I don't think I have anything else to add here, unless you have anything else, E. We can go into score predictions. I don't know if I'm going to ask you if Austin is winning Game 1 or not, but what's the score here in Game 1?
I think I'm going to go 2-0 LA in this Game 1 matchup here. They're just really talented, man. And you're going to have to find a way. I think, if I'm looking at ways for Austin FC to advance in this matchup, right? Stealing Game 1 in LA is going to be a difficult task. Yeah, a very difficult task. You got to, obviously, your back will be against the wall in Game 2, but then the pressure shifts entirely to LA in Game 3 to go ahead and close out at home. And obviously, I respect their talent. I respect the players they have. Respect Cherundolo, their entire organization. I do hate them, but I understand can acknowledge how successful they've been in this league since they've come in.
Right.
But shifting that pressure to them in Game 3 versus a clearly inferior opponent in Austin is how Austin's going to have to get the job done here. You're not walking into LAFC and to BMO Stadium, beating them Game 1 and then coming back to Austin and sweeping this team. It's just not. I don't see that happening. But I'll go 2-0 here for LA.
Look, man, I also have a 2-0 LAFC victory in this one. But I hope we're playing this, dude, on Thursday.
So I hate to say it, but that's what I'm going with, and hopefully they listen and they say, "Fuck you, E, you're stupid," and shut up. And I'll say, "Okay."
We will both say, okay, if we can get a win here on Wednesday night.
Wow. The best keeper in the world.
Closing it out here, E, checking in on Damian Loss and Louisville City. Congrats to Damian, wins the USL Golden Glove here this year. Damian had a goals against average of 0.7 per game. Louisville's second consecutive, the supporter shield in USL is called the Players Shield. So it's the second consecutive regular season title for Louisville City. 10 clean sheets on the season out of 30 games for Damian. Well, we know he didn't play the full 30, right, with injuries, suspension, and the like, but an 80% save percentage, 72 total saves, and his 19 goals allowed is the lowest goals allowed mark in club history. It's not his, the team's 19 goals allowed is the lowest mark in club history. So 4 straight clean sheets for LAS to end the regular season. And he is
the best keeper in the world.
Oh,
I don't know what happened there. Look, we're going to leave that in.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to continue reading off good Damian stats.
That's him busting the door down.
I didn't touch anything.
You talking about me?
The power of the best keeper in the world. 4 straight clean sheets for Damian to end the regular season. Has still conceded just once since August 16th. And they will match up against Detroit City FC in the round of 16. And just to put more emphasis on how dumb the MLS playoff schedule is, USL regular season, right, ended yesterday. So a day after the MLS first round started. Louisville will play their first round game before our second game against LAFC. So again, just this is certainly not the final form you would hope of the MLS playoff schedule going forward for the rest of our lives. But congrats to Damian, congrats to Louisville City. And of course, we will be checking in on Damian and Louisville throughout their playoff run. Hopefully no first round upset this year.
Absolutely. I'm looking at this. What was this last game they played here? USL Championship round 1?
Yeah, I think round 1 is what FOTMOB will call like their regular season. It was the 1-0 victory yesterday over Hartford Athletic.
Oh, okay. And just to summarize, obviously you went through the impressive stats there for Damian, but it has been a joy to, cheer from the sidelines for this Louisville team because they've been so successful, and to see what Damian has been able to do in his stint there with Louisville has been awesome. I can't wait to get him back here in Austin.
Yeah, hopefully that's next season as our backup keeper, but something we will talk about more in the off season. Ian, almost an hour here previewing game 1 of this best of 3 series. Anything else for you before we shut it down and head into the playoffs?
Let's do this.
All right, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 267 of the North End Podcast. We are back on Thursday, recapping game 1, previewing game 2, and of course, talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. Go outside, enjoy some of this weather. It's great this week. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Thursday for another episode. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.